Good afternoon and good evening to the rest of you. We are back for another episode of Bitcoin Magazine Live. I'm your host, Q, and I'm joined by my co-host, Alex McShane, and our other co-host, producer, the man who literally makes this entire show happen, Chris Alamo. What's up, you illiterate? I was going to say the F word, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, you're coming in hot there, but yeah, just hanging out, checking out the news, man. Definitely, still illiterate psychopaths. What else have we been called this year for Bitcoiners?
Psychopaths, illiterate.
Cults.
Those are the two that come to mind.
Definitely
Yeah.
cults, but I probably called ourselves that.
Cult without a leader, right?
No, Little Hodler's my leader.
Oh, okay.
Shout out Little Hodler. I believe you guys can still get some of these limited edition Bitcoin 22 plushies at the Bitcoin Magazine store. So be sure to check it out because once they're gone, they're all gone.
Oh yeah,
Pretty cool joints.
shout out Queen Elizabeth. She's like turns like 400 today. She's like, it's the Queen's birthday. I sell your gold, buy Bitcoin. It's better in every conceivable way. Yeah, if you're holding any gold, why? Other than for ornamental purposes, I guess. But
So are you never going to get your girlfriend any gold jewelry?
no, I get her like jewelry. Like I think that's a good use case for gold. You know, there's gold in my iPhone. But in terms of a store of value, I don't have much hope for it. It's highly regulated and manipulated. It's impossible to move without like a huge impairment cost. It's hard to store, it's hard to defend. You usually custody it through a bank or someone else, and that's easily confiscatable. So that's not my bag. That's like boomer money, man. But I do like it for ornamental. Actually, I'm gonna be gold plating and gold leafing my Sword of Satoshi. So this is a World War II era Japanese katana. We're gonna etch, nice Bitcoin art onto it. It's gonna be fun.
Are you and CSW gonna duke it out? You ever see that clip of him at the conference, like swinging
yeah,
the
dude.
sword?
Oh my god, yeah. I don't think I would even need a sword to slay CSW.
This is a fun little tidbit on the topic of gold and jewelry. For our one super high net worth individual listener who's out there, I learned this trick from my very rich college classmates, but I guess it's a big thing for families to hide a lot of wealth in jewelry, specifically gold jewelry, and then it's untaxed. You're not going to have to pay any sort of taxes when you're inheriting these things or when your parents pass away. So that was a way I knew a lot of girls that I went to school with were genuinely have like tens of thousands of dollars worth of jewelry. And it was truly like, no, this is like my parents giving me money. And if I ever need to like go make a down payment on a house or whatever, like I just sell this, but it's untaxed as a result.
I had a friend in Pasadena whose mother was a fine art collector. She had a bunch of like Picasso, Andy Warhol, like Matisse, like all kinds of crazy shit. So they had a lot of money, right? And they also kept a lot of money in jewelry and clothes. Yeah, and they got broken into and robbed and lost all that shit. So it's just that central point of failure. Like you can't beat the digitization and like the geographic distribution of Bitcoin keys. I mean, it's really the way to go in terms of like generational wealth, in my opinion. If the internet goes down, you might be happy that if you have some gold on hand, but I think you're going to need more like copper, brass.
Precious metals, man. They're
No
all going to
bullets.
go up.
All right. So what's our
let's break down this "we are illiterate" news because I have a lot of thoughts on it. I love getting called names. I don't know what were your two's initial thoughts on just yet another news publication attacking Bitcoiners and calling us names. I'll start there.
Well, the article's premise is ridiculous, so I didn't waste time reading it. But the idea, did you? Okay. The idea that Bitcoiners are like somehow financially illiterate as a group is hilarious to me. It may be the case that a lot of people who hold Bitcoin are just kind of YOLOing in, and don't know anything about money and are like trying to trade the greatest asset they could ever hold. But for people who have spent, I don't know, put 50 to 100 hours studying Bitcoin, even just that little amount, they tend to be more financially savvy than most. This is just anecdotal, but than most other people in my life. Like people who have spent significant amounts of time studying Bitcoin. Like I always talk about, there's that leap that you have to make. You have to admit you didn't know anything about the financial system. Like you didn't really understand to the degree you were being duped by the US dollar and the Fed, and just how convoluted all that stuff is, until you really get like the exception that kind of proves how fucked up that system is, which is Bitcoin, right? So you're looking at the legacy financial system from the lens of a simpler, more sophisticated technology. And it really makes glaringly obvious just how broken and illiterate the leaders of that technology are. I mean, you could debate whether I think a lot of them know what they're doing and understand how, unethical it is, but I'll let Chris chime in there.
Yeah, no, I agree. It really makes you rethink everything that you thought you knew. I don't know. I go back and forth. I think some of them are blatantly unaware, but there's definitely people that are aware and they're using it to their own benefit. Certain politicians, for sure, at least.
Yeah, I mean, in reading the actual article, there's no facts to actually back up this claim. They're not saying like, oh, on average, their returns year over year look like this, or their net net worth is declining at this rate. There's no actual data tying it back to make this claim. It just kind of seems like this is an add-on to a list of other statements about like the core group of people who own Bitcoin, which they essentially equate to being their younger demographic. So like, I think it's more of an attack on age first, because they've already grouped in the majority of Bitcoin buyers in Canada, where this article stems from, are a younger demographic, and then gives no such thing of, for these reasons they are financially illiterate.
Yeah.
I do
I
want to talk. Go ahead.
I just wanted to like chime in like anecdotally on that again. I mean, before Bitcoin, I was definitely financially illiterate, or like unable, like in the fiat system, to get whatever, a leg up, get ahead. I could never accumulate more than like $2,000 or $3,000 in savings, and it evaporated. It was just like hand to mouth living. It was terrible. Like some of that is on me and the jobs that I chose and the paths that I chose, but I worked very hard for a long time and there was no savings to show for it, because of inflation, because of just like a whole variety of reasons. But switching to Bitcoin, I actually like learned the value of savings and the value of like solid savings technology. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners can relate to this. Like after just, I don't know, 6 months in Bitcoin, I had more savings than I've ever had in fiat. Like, and by like years down the line now, it's like exponentially more money than I could ever accumulate in fiat. So I don't know who is financially illiterate here, because it seems to me this strategy of just buy and hold is a great way to live, man. It really, that low time preference lifestyle really pays dividends. That kegger on Bitcoin after, your first 4 years is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the other side of the coin on that, because I have been able to like understand, I think, the general fiat market system. I was able to build some wealth in that system before starting to like transfer some of it over into Bitcoin. And like the comment I made this morning, while I agree with your counterpoint, like I remember a lot of hurdles when I was getting involved in Bitcoin. The idea of buying on the dips, like buying on a losing position, those are things that go completely against the grain of how I was trained to invest and trade in the public markets. I'm not necessarily saying that system of trading is qualification and make you financially literate or not. It's more of a sense of like, these are the typical guardrails that these people have used and understood. And to come at it from a different angle, they're just going to throw their arms up and be like, well, these guys are fucking crazy and idiots because I don't understand it. And like the old lawyer system, if you can't win off the merits of the case, then just attack the person's integrity and then diminish their credibility as a result. And like, we're just witnessing that come to life right now. We're witnessing repeated attacks on like who we are, what we do, and how we do it based on no facts whatsoever, based on just bold, brash claims that are catchy in a headline and draw viewers. In a weird way, I almost like, I remember years ago, I got into like a dumb debate on Twitter over like a starting five that like I think Bleacher Report kind of posted, and like they shunned Shaq. And like I'm a diehard Shaq fan. And so I'm like on a Twitter rampage, like, how could you like Bill Russell sucks, like Kareem is great, but like Shaq's better, like going on and on. And then someone replies to my thread of responses going, dude, you're doing exactly what they want. They always do this where they leave like one person off so that they get engagement and then draw everyone who like thinks Kareem should have been on the list, or thinks that Bill Russell should have been on the list, or who thinks that Shaq should have been on the list. And I think we're just witnessing that go over again, because you get the people who are anti-Bitcoin responding positively to these articles being like, yeah, they're fucking crazy. Yeah, like Bitcoiners don't know what they're doing. No, dude, Bitcoin's not real money. It's fake internet money. It's a scam, whatever. And then you have the Bitcoiners who are also sounding in this echo chamber of, you guys just don't understand us. We're responding to it. We're replying to it. We're retweeting it. It drives up the engagement of this conversation. And I almost want to be like, let the idiots talk and let us like worry about bigger things going on. But that's the rant.
Yeah, I usually take like, I mean, I usually just laugh at these articles. Like, I'm not offended in any way. I think it's great. Keep writing about Bitcoin, keep slamming on Bitcoin. I mean, it just lends legitimacy by interest. It just draws more free marketing to the network. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing that I always wonder for the non-Bitcoiners, or even like if you're a no corner, do you actually take those articles seriously? Like, I don't know. I just have a lot of friends that know what I do, and I do interact with like normies, but I don't think that they would read the article and be like, oh yeah, this is true. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm naive to it. Don't have a large enough sample size.
I mean, I like, for example, the psychopath one. I remember getting DM from a few people like, and more of a like, LOL, look at this. A couple of people like, what are your thoughts? And my thoughts, again, that same lawyer argument is they have no basis to like attack what we're doing. So instead they attack who we are. Like,
Yeah,
that's all that's going on, because they're getting to a point in mainstream media where like you're starting to see some breaks. You're starting to see someone like Morgan Stanley talk about, hey, you know what? Bitcoin might actually, the Lightning Network might actually be like a legitimate payment platform. Like maybe we should be like investing in this, looking at this, exploring this deeper than like continuing to be in bed with Visa and MasterCard. I think it's slowly happening. I don't think it's going to literally be like on July 5th, 2024, every single bank is going to be giving you the option of like buying Bitcoin directly through them or anything of the sort. It's more of a like game theory system. One of them will cave. All of a sudden, other banks will start to lose clients, lose money as a result, because they're going to move their money to the other bank that gives them that offer and gives them the ability to have access to that asset class. And then all of a sudden, every other bank is going to cave as a result. But I think that's a great way for us to segue over to this Morgan Stanley stuff.
Oh yeah, we can pull it up right now.
We're gonna
on screen queue, or Alex, if you want to comment on it.
So, I mean,
yeah, Phyllis, thank you.
It's essentially exactly what I said. Morgan Stanley essentially only released a statement saying that the Lightning Network is legitimate. They didn't dive in any deeper of like how it's going to be grown or anything. They bring up Jack Mallers' announcement from Bitcoin 2022, where essentially Strike has partnered with NCR and Blackhawk Network. Those companies are going to go over all of your heads. But the truth is that those companies don't go over the heads of the executives at Walmart, the executives at McDonald's, the executives at Chipotle. Those NCR and Blackhawk Network are the payment processors for various businesses, including the ones that I just listed. what I'm understanding from all of this is just like Morgan Stanley watched Jack Mallers' talk and is now like, okay, we see how this store of value can become a medium of exchange.
Yeah, more than that, I think they're recognizing that it's inevitable in some capacity, even just like a small economy of this happening, and you're only going to benefit by adopting this technology. I think being anti-Bitcoin is kind of like a non-serious position. We haven't had any good critics of the network as a whole as to reasons why you shouldn't be joining it, reaping its benefits. This is the biggest open and permissionless network in the world, probably the most inclusive, definitely the most inclusive monetary network. I think big institutions and small businesses are going to realize that they might as well set up their infrastructure to receive it. It's a great business strategy. And you see you see a reflection of this in politics as well. Like, why not just align yourself with Bitcoiners? I mean, you can debunk the ESG FUD very easily as a politician, and you're going to have a lot of people come to your aid. Although it works both ways. If you step out of line, the Bitcoin community will cancel you. As we've seen on Twitter the past few days. But I still think there's like the cannibalizing effect of the sideways market. Like, people are just fucking bored. So you're going to see like more and more Twitter spats and feuds arise, and just Bitcoiners destroying each other for no reason.
Yeah, I would agree. It's as the price chops sideways, people are just looking for anything to get mad about or angry about or call something out. Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Everyone loves me on Twitter.
Yes.
No, I mean, look, in all seriousness, and like, I'm going to sound very soapboxy saying this. I hate cancel culture. I think it's stupid to begin with. But then this idea within Bitcoin where I'd say a majority of Bitcoiners agree with that first part of the statement. And then my pushback is always, so why do we cancel people? Why do we, like, who cares if they're anti-Bitcoin? All press is good press. You want to have some very notable, high influential people, someone who like people listen to when they talk about Bitcoin, regardless of positive or negative. It starts the conversation. It starts to get the ball rolling in people's minds. Negative or positive words, they only mean something right now. But the truth is, like, so long as you continue to hear about Bitcoin, an individual's curiosity for it will continue to grow. If all you hear is Elizabeth Warren shitting on Bitcoin for 2 years, and then all of a sudden you tune into a different news station or a different person that you follow, and now this person's also talking about Bitcoin, but in a different lens, the question starts to arise. And like, maybe I'm generalizing a little too much. Maybe I'm giving just humans too much credit, but I'd like to think that over time, once you continue to get berated about Bitcoin, and you're not involved, regardless of what you are hearing about it, you start to have this curiosity of like, all right, I've heard like so many different sides of this at this point that like, I need to like do a little bit more investigating. And that's where it starts.
Yeah, I think whether or not, I mean, whatever kind of Luddite, like anti-Bitcoin stance you might be being fed from the media, like they're talking about it because it's on the table. Like, they can't avoid it. This is coming. This will disrupt your business, and your any like software as a service, any like financial arm of like the fiat monster, like anything like that's going to have to contend with this thing. So you're only going to see more and more of it. I mean, it's been in the news every day now for a couple years in some small capacity, with bigger and bigger kind of stories from bigger outlets coming out. And I think like the Bitcoin conference is a great testament to this. Like, the network itself, like the base layer of like people who are in this for good and are not exchanging their wealth and their sovereign wealth funds back into fiat, are those users only grow, right? Like, I can't foresee me just like leaving Bitcoin if it continues to operate as it currently does. There's no reason to.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said there. Do you guys want to pivot on to the next
I
bit of
want to
news?
present a question real quick
All
to
right.
the two of you. What do you think is more helpful to someone who's coming in and learning about Bitcoin? Like just buying $5 worth and letting it sit there, or like continuously getting inundated with opinions about Bitcoin from across the spectrum, pro and anti-Bitcoin?
Well,
I'll
those aren't mutually exclusive.
Right, but I want to
I'll
make
go
them in this
first.
scenario.
I'll go first. I think when you have skin in the game, whether it's a $5 or $100, $1,000, whatever, when you've got money on the table, I think you're more enticed to learn more about it. But I agree with Alex. It's not mutually exclusive, but I just think having money in the game makes you more aware.
Yeah,
Alex,
100%.
mutually exclusive, your response.
Well, I'm just saying you're going to have both. Like whether or not you put money down in Bitcoin, you're going to hear arguments that are for it or against it, unless you're like some kind of like you're totally disconnected from the internet. And even
Like,
then, it'll reach you eventually.
it will reach you. I don't disagree with the idea that like they're not mutually exclusive. However, like I can just use the sample size of my group of friends where I finally orange pilled one of my best friends. I gave him my strike code. He got $10 worth of free Bitcoin. And then yesterday he sent me the text being like, your propaganda finally worked. Like the recurring Bitcoin purchases have begun. On the other end of the spectrum, at the same dinner party we were at when I orange pilled him, our other friend who has no Bitcoin whatsoever was very knowledgeable and like understood enough about Bitcoin, but still like had no interest in even being given $10 of free Bitcoin. But like, that's just to say like that's a very small sample size. And I think if you pull it out further, like you get different responses, of course. But I think two examples of that kind of go to show you, like prove Chris's point. If anything, having skin in the game makes you more interested in like being more involved, learning more, investing more in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin, I saw it very quickly as hope and like made plans to put as much money into it as I could immediately. Even other people's money. Like I was calling everyone I know to just like, hey, like let's talk about this thing. Do you know anything about it? Like how do I, quote unquote, like invest in it? How do I do this? How do I do that? Like it promotes, but it depends on your like level of curiosity. I had a lot of free time in my life at that time. A lot of people, very busy trying to work and survive because they're living in the on the fiat standard. I think that the protocol is agnostic. Bitcoin doesn't care if you join it or not. You will be penalized for being a latecomer. You'll benefit the way everyone benefits from an open and permissionless monetary network. But in fiat terms, history has shown us that early adopters benefit in fiat terms, in terms of, net worth and price appreciation. And late adopters are not going to be able to access as much Bitcoin. I mean, I tweeted out today, like, hey, your first Bitcoin is going to be hard. Extend it out. Your first 10 Bitcoins are going to be hard as fuck. And your next 10 are going to be even harder. This is a proof of work network. Like it's it's not the same system. Like this is not cheap money. Like this is hard to come by and you have to exchange value to get it. No one's giving away substantial amounts of free Bitcoin. And you'll see that the generosity like among Bitcoiners, the amount that they can give away just decreases over time because everyone recognizes this is the most valuable asset to hold. This is going to be the most tradable good of all time within the next 10 years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at even like companies like Lolly or Fold or whatever, or even in this show, when we give away Bitcoin, there's more of it's not being created, or at least I guess it is being created, but there's only a finite cap that will ever be. So you just can't keep giving it away more and more. It's going to get less and less because the purchasing power of it goes up.
I think we should give out some Bitcoin.
I'm down.
Yeah, well, we still can here. But this has been a great, like, I don't know, example for people who are new to Bitcoin this last few years. I kind of like this, that nothing really has happened price-wise. Like we're kind of moving sideways the last year. I think it doesn't only test people's conviction, but it actually gave them a really fair shot to accumulate. Like average American income, I don't know, I'd guess like $25,000 to $35,000, like you could have reasonably worked your ass off and accumulated a Bitcoin in the last year. Like you might as well just start. Like how much Bitcoin can you get? You know what I mean? Like that's the whole game. Like you're not going to have, you might have some sort of social score, and we might be tied into some weird vax passport technology, but the real number that matters is how many Bitcoin do you control exclusively.
For those who are watching, you do not need to be overwhelmed with the idea of spending every penny you made buying Bitcoin this year. You can buy it at $1 at a time. Just a friendly reminder that that option does exist.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think DCAing is great. I think it's really found a good way to kind of like meme itself into existence and, you know, really spread kind of like optimism, especially among like Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces, like these kind of platforms. It's a great movement. But I think like the superior strategy is put everything on red. Like I think a consolidation, like I'm not telling you to go, you know, take on loans you can't pay back, but I think if you have a good amount of Bitcoin, you want to see what it can do for you, convert the money to Bitcoin and hold it. You know, you don't have to go $2 at a time. Like find your dip and put everything on the line. I don't know. That's my strategy, and it works great. I love it. And then the dollar cost averaging comes after that, right? Like, because now you have skin in the game, and you can't afford to, you know, let's say you keep 10% to 1% of your wealth in fiat to operate your life month to month. You can only afford a small allocation of Bitcoin relatively after that. So it's just going to be those frequent buys. I mean, don't you dollar cost average like every hour, Q?
Right now I have it set up on strike for $5 every hour.
Nice. I like that. Well,
but the truth is, like, I keep debating because, like, to your point about like the sideways movement, the correlation with the NASDAQ just has me so worried that if I genuinely believe the NASDAQ and the greater stock market is due for a big sell-off correction type of event, I also candidly kind of believe that the same thing is going to happen in Bitcoin, just given the correlation. And so as a result, like I've been debating like changing my buys to $1 and then doing a smash buy under 35K kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think I've never been good at holding the dry powder. Like I generally keep between like 12 and like $80 in my bank account. I mean, literally, I don't have any money. It's all Bitcoin. And I love that because it keeps me honest about how I'm spending, and it keeps me from buying useless like bullshit. Does it become difficult, and do I have to get creative when I have some kind of emergency or my fucking car breaks down? Like, yeah, but it literally just makes me more incentivized to work hard, to trade value for money, and to like be creative at problem solving, while allowing me to like maximize the benefits of Bitcoin. And do I think that I kind of believe that we are in like somewhat of a bear market, and we could see a crash down to something like 20K. And I'm okay with that, because I think ultimately in 10 years, it's not going to matter whether you bought at 20K or 40K. If Bitcoin's $1 to $5 million per coin, I mean, I think you should get because I've also seen the reverse happen, where I didn't put money into Bitcoin and then I watched it soar like $5,000-$10,000 in a very short period of time. And that felt really shitty. It's always better to hold the Bitcoin, I think.
That's fair. I don't think everyone has the gumption that you have to live so close on the edge and maybe not be able to afford a bill or two from time to time. I know that you sometimes joke about how your hands are tied because you just don't have any cash right now because you just spend all of it on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I don't have any like I don't know what I'm going to eat today. But that's like
most people aren't comfortable with that. Most people want to know what they're going to have to eat.
Alex
today.
is going to hunt his own meat and kill a deer. fucking harvest
Yeah,
it.
no, I really need to. Like, I need some venison. I need like a nice big freezer full of meat. But full disclosure, like I live with, my fiance, so like we're fine. I mean, she's not crazy like me about Bitcoin. So, but I just think like you can't like if you take all the money out of your bank account, like nothing happens. Like you can put all your money in Bitcoin and you can liquidate some when you need it. I don't do that. I hold
Actually,
it in
that's not true,
Bitcoin.
Alex. If you take all your money out, a lot of banks have limits that you need at least $1,000 or they start charging you or threaten to close your account. So you're better off doing that with Bitcoin, to be honest.
Oh, really? My bank doesn't do that.
Wait, you have a bank?
Yeah, like barely. I have one checking account. With like $40 in it, and
I
it's great.
I
Like
rage quit. No,
you
finish.
rage quit
Sorry.
your bank.
I
Yeah,
I did. I have a really funny story about that.
Say it,
They,
Q.
yeah. Tell
so
it.
so like just based on the way like money was getting transferred to my checking account through my Venmo and then through my savings account, I guess overdrew something, even though it said like, oh, there's a payment pending. And I got dinged with like all of these fees on my savings account, being like, oh, you overdrew this. There was not enough of a balance. Like you have to maintain less than $300 in this account. And I I was having a really bad day. I literally on the phone with Bank of America and they're being like, there's nothing we can do. I'm like, this is an arbitrary charge that you made up that I have literally had reversed before. This is up to you to reverse it. So you're full of shit. I went off. And then finally, like, no one was helping me. I literally kept being like, let me speak to your supervisor. Let me speak to your supervisor. Full blown Karen mode. And then by the end of it, I've had like 6 different Bank of America employees tell me no. I was like, fine, fuck you. Transfer all of my money to this account. I'm closing the savings account with Bank of America. I
Q
will
has a
again.
Yeah,
hit list of companies: Delta, Bank
yeah.
of America. For
I've
YouTube, he wishes them no harm, but just know that he's never
Nah,
doing
fuck you
business
too.
with them again.
I mean, yeah, I had the same thing happen. I mean, you're paying a pretty steep maintenance cost, even if you don't hold dollars in the bank. Like you're just leaking wealth. The CPI is, I don't know, what are we at? Reported at 10%. It's definitely much higher.
It's
And you're
reported at
also
8.5, but yeah, it's definitely higher if you do the math on it.
yeah, and you're definitely getting like first of all, like yeah, CPI is a moving goalpost. They just changed the basket of goods. Like you can no longer afford steaks. So the new standard for meat is like bullshit Soylent burger. Um, so if you don't want to like leak that wealth and you don't want to pay to use your own money, keep your operational expenses in a local currency, the shitty fiat currency, and put all of your savings into Bitcoin. Not crypto, not shitcoins, not NFTs, Bitcoin.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of people that come from the more traditional way of saving, I guess I'd say like the 60-40 portfolio. We don't even have to talk about the 40. I mean, bonds are just worthless. And I've actually never invested in bonds. But yeah, just like coming from someone that would do more of like dollar cost averaging into S&P 500, like, because they think they're diversifying in terms of having like multiple things. And I know that like coming to Bitcoin in the beginning, I like my very beginning of my Bitcoin journey, I bought some Ethereum and then I was like, this is total BS. I held it for like maybe a month, 2 months max. But I know some people, like even my dad at first was like, oh, I should buy the top 10 coins in order to like diversify. And I was like, no, dad, like don't do that. Please do not do that. And I like convinced him otherwise. But like he comes from the very much boomer mentality of like, you want less risk, you want to diversify into the top 10 companies, the top 500, or whatever the number is to like mitigate your risks across all things. But Bitcoin's very different than crypto. And I think you make a good point with that, Alex.
Well, if you have the most tradable good, if you have the most sought after asset in the universe, which sounds like an extraordinary claim, but I mean, find me a stronger, more resilient asset than Bitcoin. This technology is going to be alive and well after all of us, I would assume. And I don't know. I think every day that it survives is like testament to that. It's been over 10 years.
I just want to make one
I
comment.
lost my point. Yeah, I lost my point. Go ahead.
On the diversification topic, like if you guys haven't checked out the Bitcoin Capital Allocators talk from B22, it'll help you kind of understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about. But this idea of diversification that truly does stem from like the boomer generation of investing really stems from high net worth individuals that typically have at least $500,000, if not $1 million. And then their guideline is don't put more than 10% of your wealth into a specific asset class. That's $100,000 on $1 million portfolio into just one asset. However, again, the way I was taught, if you have a portfolio with 100K or less, you should actually never have more than 5 stocks in your portfolio. You should be highly concentrated in the right growth stocks so that you can boom better. Because otherwise, if you have 10% diversification across the board and then one of your stocks pops off and triples, guess what? You only grew like maybe 20%. When in actuality, like you had a big winner, but you didn't really reap the rewards of having that big winner. Same goes for, the way we talk about Bitcoin allocation. And this now goes back to this idea of being like concentrated in the right asset class, which is why I think all of our allocations in Bitcoin are probably the highest. Alex literally doesn't allocate to anything else other than the cow he buys once a month. But like for Chris and I, who I know also has a diversified portfolio, like there's other assets in my portfolio, but like the majority of it is in Bitcoin or Bitcoin related assets as well.
I have assets that I'd love to liquidate, but like tax reasons, it's holding me back. And I guess I do own a home, or I borrow from the government. The opportunity to buy a home is the best way to say it.
You're renting a home.
I remember my point. This Bitcoin is the most diverse asset you can hold because it's taking on the definition of money itself, and it's going to be the most sought after good. There's really no better medium of exchange to hold. If you buy other cryptos, that is a diversification. And to Q's point, I don't think diversification, I think that's a strategy that is applied by boomers to maintain their wealth and to escape leaking wealth through the dollar. I think consolidation here is the strategy, and I'm still looking, but I can't find something better to hold than Bitcoin. I don't think one's coming anytime soon. I think anything that takes on the definition of like stronger money than Bitcoin will just be Bitcoin itself. It's the longest chain. It's the most distributed. It's the most secure.
My final point, just to tie it back to that Bitcoin capital allocators thing, most billionaire capital allocators, when you have billions of dollars, your diversification sort of allotment is really 2 to 2.5%. But again, 2.5% of $1 billion is $25 million. So again, like when you start to allocate, when you have high value, a high starting position, these smaller percentages still make up such a massive portion of your portfolio, typically larger than that next class of investor down. If you go down to the millionaires who are doing 10%, and then you do the like 10,000aires who are doing 25% in each stock, that goes to show you, concentration matters depending on what your net worth is. That's your financial tip for today, guys. That and hide your wealth in Bitcoin and gold jewelry.
You guys, I think, are convincing me to close my bank account and just lump it all into Fold and just kind of pull out a Fold as I need to bill things.
You can't. You can't because you have a mortgage under your name.
I can't? Oh, right. You're right. Right.
You'll get dinged so hard on your credit. Like they'll just find reasons to mess with you.
Yeah.
Hey,
bummer.
No credit, no problems.
Hey, man.
I find it wild that Alex was not able to get a credit card.
I mean, look at him. Would you give him a credit line?
I'd give it to Brian Armstrong. I mean, he's got a lot of money, or at least he thinks he does.
Yeah, I'm gonna apply for a credit card as Brian Armstrong and see if that helps.
Guys, we are not
but
advocating for using Coinbase. We recommend not using Coinbase. That's the joke for anyone that doesn't get it.
Yeah, I would say try it and just enjoy all the fees and problems with self-custodying and potential hacks, and Coinbase sucks. But I'm excited, guys. I'm thinking about selling my car this weekend.
Nice.
Is it the car that broke down on the side of the road?
Yes. Yeah, I don't really want to fix it, so I was just gonna sell it.
I'm just saying that so any of you viewers don't get duped and buy his broken down old car.
Yeah, it's a fine car. I fucked up the alternator, so I'm gonna get that fixed, see what that runs me, and then sell it for Bitcoin, and then take Ubers. It's gonna be great.
And as someone who does not own a car in the city of Los Angeles, of all places, let me tell you, it's kind of nice not having all those like little monthly payments, having to consistently pay for gas, insurance, having my mom nag me to go wash my car. It's really nice.
How long have you not had a car, Q? Just out of curiosity.
Next month will be a whole year.
Okay, nice.
Is this typical of Los Angeles people? Because my girl doesn't have a car, but she also can't drive, and she grew up in Los Angeles.
No,
Is
like
that
that's
normal?
literally the opposite. Like
Oh,
Their
LA
okay.
has the
infrastructure is
most
terrible.
cars. LA has the most cars per capita of any city in America.
Yeah, there's
Like-
not that much good public transport.
No,
Or
however,
transit, right?
though, so a couple fun facts for you guys to dish out at the next time you're hanging out with some normie friends and don't want to dish out Bitcoin facts. As of right now, Los Angeles is the last major metropolitan city in America without access to its airport through some sort of public transportation line. You literally have to
interesting.
take a car. Like you have to.
Hmm.
Or you can like go to one of the like hotels that are nearby and like hop on its shuttle, but it's absurd. And then the 2028 World Olympics, will be hosted in Los Angeles. And as part of the bid for those Olympic Games, they were supposed to submit a new public transportation system. So they've been very aggressively for like the last 9 years now, or 8 years, very aggressively building out public transportation. Like, for example, Beverly Hills got a metro stop and the city was up in arms over the fact that they now have a metro line like coming through Beverly Hills. So it's being built out. By the end of this decade, LA, I think, will be a lot better so long as Gavin Newsom like goes away. But problems for another day.
If LA is still standing at the end of the decade, I'll have to come visit you.
Says the guy who sent me a message being like, dude, I'm coming to LA. Let's go surfing.
Yeah. Great place to visit, though, I will say. I do like it.
The weather's beautiful. The beaches are, honestly, I've been to beaches all over the country. This was a thought that I realize now I did not tweet out. I've smoked weed all over the world. I've been to beaches all over the world. I've seen women from all over the world. The women here suck. Sorry. Beaches here, unmatched.
Hold on.
Dude,
Wait, hold on a
90% of them
sec,
want to
Q.
just be an actress.
Isn't your girlfriend from the States?
Technically not. She's from like Texas by way of Kentucky. So like, not really.
Wait, you're saying the women from the States or California? Or
From LA, dude. You go anywhere in LA and it's like they're all beautiful, but then when you start to talk to them, you're like, oh, you're just trying to be an actress. Oh, you're famous.
Would
on
you call them
Instagram?
illiterate, Q?
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely have that like not all of them, but there's a weird valley like voice thing that happened. Like Q, you have it. Like everybody,
The voice fry.
Whoa!
Q does not have the voice fry.
Q has it. It's like it's like
I have
LA
that slow
thing.
California drawl. That SoCal California drawl. I do not have the valley voice. Do not ever put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
I'm on Team Q on this one. He does not have the voice fry.
He doesn't have the valley voice, but he does have like the Los Angeles kind of they're just easygoing, like maybe I don't know.
No, I have that. The
like,
first time I learned that I've got like an LA accent was, this is actually hilarious. when I was visiting GW after being an admitted student for like their come for a weekend BS thing, I couldn't sleep the entire time I was there for that 3 days because like I will tell you, dude, a 3-hour time shift may not seem like a lot, but like if you're going to bed at 1 o'clock in LA, that's like 4 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast. So I was never able to really fall asleep. And so at like 2:30 in the morning, me and some other kids who were like drinking a little bit and like having fun decided to go walk by the White House because it's 2 blocks from the dorm hall we were staying in. And like I just struck up a conversation with one of the Secret Service agents, like jokingly being like, yo, is that person right there Obama taking a shit? And he was like, yo, are you from LA? I was like, yo, Secret Service like have eyes on me? Like what's going on right now?
It's the dark skin Q. It's the Middle Eastern that they're
Dude,
keeping an eye on you.
Dude, you joke, but they definitely are. Like you guys are now on some sort of watch list for having texted me and being in touch with me for as long as you have been.
Yeah, that's good. So if I just stop responding, a new number, who this? Q.
All right,
You know,
Bitcoin news stories. What do we got?
we got the MicroStrategy news. If you want to go for that,
let's do it. You want to tee us up, Chris?
Yeah. So putting it up on screen now. So Michael Saylor, this is from CNBC. Michael Saylor says investing in MicroStrategy is the closest you'll get to a Bitcoin spot ETF. I know we had talk about this earlier, Q and Alex, about like, I know, I don't know if it was on Lex's podcast, but Michael Saylor is basically saying like it's immoral to like, if you're, what is it? You're technically an insider is what Michael Saylor is, being the CEO of MicroStrategy. Like it's immoral to like basically pump your bags and say you should buy MicroStrategy stock. I think
it's ethically dicey. Like it's dubious. It depends what you're doing, but I didn't see any of those, like any false claims in the CNBC article. And actually I've heard, Michael Saylor told me and Q this personally, like at the conference. He was like, look, there's no spot ETF. The closest you're going to get to it is just to hold MicroStrategy, and you're going to have tax deferred, and you're not going to have a 1% fee. So it's a great move. I'd be curious, Q, do you hold MicroStrategy? Would you share?
I have in the past. I haven't recently because I've been a net seller for some time now. So I haven't been buying any new shares of anything. I remember, for example, I wrote a nice little wave up. Thank you. Shout out our boy Dylan LeClaire when he pointed out that like MicroStrategy's market cap, I believe this was back in like January or February, its market cap at the time was trading below the market value of all the Bitcoin it held. And I was like, all right, well, this is called arbitrage and I'm going to have my free lunch today. And I rode like a quick little 10% gainer there. I'm kind of curious on a couple of things, and I'll present this question, but I want to make some comments first. Like, do you guys see a world where Saylor or just MicroStrategy in general starts to separate? Because technically speaking, their Bitcoin investment is held under their subsidiary called Macrostrategy. And so do you see a world where they would just separate Macrostrategy to be a tried and true ETF as a result?
I don't think so, because you've got to get, technically they become a bank and they would need a banking license, and they'd have to go through that whole process in order to do that, I believe. So I don't see them doing that personally, but who knows? I actually hold MicroStrategy. So my thing is I have a 401k with money that I can only pick certain things. So I hold the S&P 500. Then I have 25% in GBTC, which I hate. And then I have 25% in MicroStrategy. So that's like pretty much my...
Why do you hold GBTC at all?
Yeah, you got. GBTC was the 2020 run up. That was the time to hold some GBTC.
Well, I've had it since then. So
okay.
Oh,
this is an IRA account?
Yeah.
It's all tax deferred anyways. Why wouldn't you start exiting those positions?
I just threw it in there and just haven't looked at it. I'm easy with that, buy it, hold, and don't do anything. So
I urge you once again to sell your shit coins in your IRA and buy.
I know Bitcoins. It's just that the problem is like, I don't want to pay the government any more tax than I have to. I know I'm stuck in the rat race with it in a way, because they're just inflating away the money and they could confiscate it tomorrow because I made fun of X, Y, and Z politicians. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Like, if you're politically misaligned, we've seen our governments, like first world, whatever you want to call it, countries, like if you are politically step out of line, they will freeze your assets and seize them. How crazy
Snowden,
is that?
Assange, Ross, like even just
Canadian truckers.
more recent journalists that spoke out against people. Yeah, it gets pretty dicey pretty quick.
Yeah.
Trust me, Alex, I lose sleep over this. I don't lose sleep over the Bitcoin I hold. That like helps me go to sleep. Like I have been in this battle with myself for years of what to freaking do with this. I get in like heated debates with my dad. My dad's like, "Don't do it. You're gonna have to pay taxes." I'm like, "Dad, if they confiscate it, then I could pay, no taxes on it." Like, I don't know.
Like, I don't disagree with the idea that like they could just arbitrarily be like, "Yo, Chris, your IRA is ours now." Like, sucks to suck. I'm still on your side and your dad's side more than anything, I guess, in that like the tax burden of that, like you could look at losing more than 50% of that entire portfolio's value or however much you withdraw as a result because of different, like, you're gonna have to pay the capital gains taxes. Now you have to redo your tax forms from years past to like readjust what your income statements are, probably return some of the tax refunds that you got in years past. And then on top of that, like you're not gonna, I know we talk about how like Bitcoin is this savings mechanism and owning Bitcoin outright is very important. I've said this before, I will keep pounding this drum. There are trillions upon trillions of dollars in the US markets that are tied up in these IRA funds across people's accounts. And as a result, these banks are going to continue to roll out different ways to offer Bitcoin exposure. There will be a Bitcoin ETF. You see publicly traded miners coming onto the public, miners becoming publicly traded companies. You see different companies expose themselves to these public markets in ways that like you can't go right now and buy a share of Strike, but if Strike IPO'd, now you could own a piece of what Jack Mallers is doing. Mm-hmm. And like, honestly, like, I hate this. Pomp was the one who tweeted this out earlier today, but like the best investment strategy over the last 10 years was just invest in Elon Musk. Don't invest in anything else. Just invest in what Elon Musk is doing.
But that's not true. The best investment strategy.
I don't disagree, but like the point I'm more trying to make is, especially when you start looking at some of these like big value, high publicly traded companies, something like a Meta. You're not investing in Meta. You're investing in Mark Zuckerberg. You're not investing in Jack Dorsey. You're not investing in Tesla. You're investing in Elon Musk and like the vision that these men have.
Yeah.
If there are thought leaders,
I would say that's a very reckless thing to do.
I don't agree with that.
I don't think there's I don't think holding these securities, like this is a whole trust thing. Like the system is adversarial at all levels. You're not supposed to win. You're not supposed to come out of this on top. And you're not going to get lucky and get rich just YOLOing on some entrepreneur. Like the safe thing to do and the responsible thing to do financially is to hold Bitcoin. It's not to hold these. When Michael Saylor talks about holding MicroStrategy to access Bitcoin, he's not talking to UQ. He's talking to institutions that have no other option, that can't hold Bitcoin itself. But if you have the ability to just run your own node and hold Bitcoin, there's nothing that can beat that, in my opinion.
But again, I say this more from the lens of like the trillions upon trillions of dollars that are tied up in these IRA accounts. They're
right. Those institutions should look for the closest thing they can get to spot Bitcoin right now.
Fair, but the point I'm more making is by the end of this decade, there will be other options than just MicroStrategy and these publicly traded Bitcoin miners. Yep. And like as a result, like, dude, investing in 2021 in Bitcoin on January 1st versus buying shares of Marathon stock, you would have made more money just owning Marathon stock. It's that old principle. It's like,
because you wouldn't sell your Bitcoin at this point.
No, this is based on like the idea of buy Jan 1, sell December 31st. What were the returns in 2021? The returns on owning these publicly traded miners were better than the returns on owning Bitcoin.
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying, like, fuck that whole system, fuck that legacy, fuck trust, like these banks. Like if you don't want to have your property stolen from you, you have to exit that system. If you leave property within this kind of borrowed time and money that is the US dollar, you're going to get screwed.
Yeah. Kind of in agreement. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you in agreement? Does that mean you're going to start exiting your IRA account?
I mean, like I said, I lose sleep over it. I don't know. I don't want to pay any more taxes than I have to, but I get that it's like still an arm of the state. I mean, they could take those assets for no reason, for whatever reason. They can make up a reason.
You want something that's, sorry, go ahead, Alex.
What's up?
I was going to make Chris really not sleep tonight, but
I was just saying it's just a liability. There's just so much trust involved. And like I pulled the I didn't have as big of IRA as you, like by any means, but I pulled the trigger and exited that shit as soon as I could, and I'm so happy I did. It's just so liberating to just be on a Bitcoin standard. Like it's so free. Like I could move to Italy tomorrow, no problem. Like literally just up and gone. Like it would be great,
Q, I want to hear your lose sleep because I already don't get enough as it is. And then we'll move on.
You really don't, dude. Like it worries me how little Chris sleeps.
I'm working, dude.
Dude, you need to stop playing so many video games. I
don't really play that many video games.
I'm the only LA based person or West Coast based person on our team. And like, I'm still working around like 8 through 10 o'clock at night some nights. And the only person who's responding to my messages are Chris. I'm like, dude, it's 1 a.m. Go to bed. Anyways, I have a theory that I think we're witnessing it play out live in these stock markets, which was back in 2020. I was saying that the stock market is not going up. Like, yes, it's going up because the trading volume is way higher than it's ever been before. And as a result, like that's driving prices higher for each individual stock. But what we're not recognizing is how does inflation factor into all of this? And in fact, all of these stocks have like a 20 to 30% inflation premium that they've been trading on. And as we're raising interest rates, that inflation premium is coming down lower and lower until it finally corrects. But as they decrease the interest rates again, which they inevitably will come some point in the near future, then that inflation premium will continue to expand in a sick way while we're going to get screwed over. My mom was complaining like, dude, these eggs were $4.25 a month ago and I just paid almost $6 for a dozen eggs. Like in that same vein, you're going to lose out on money on your necessities here. But at the same time, if you're able to use that IRA to help you negate or offset the inflation, like it's a sick, twisted way to do it. But the truth is like that opportunity is going to be there and exist.
Yeah. No, I think that's good points. You want to go to the next bit of news? Do you want to do Jeremy Rubin or Compass Mining? Those are the next two topics I got.
Let's hit with Jeremy and then end with Compass maybe.
Yeah, we can do that.
I want to throw in the other one as well before we do Compass. Let's go back to back on dunks with the IMF thread as well.
Okay.
After cool. Jeremy Rubin.
Okay, so we'll go Jeremy Rubin. All right, that's up on screen right now.
Yeah, I feel like I have a hunch you have a better understanding of this than me, Chris, if you want to
yeah, let me
give the gist of the story.
Yeah, so it's up on screen and then so basically this is Jerry Rubin he's the guy that's promoting BIP 119, which stands for Bitcoin Improvement Protocol. Basically there's 7 of these on the next steps for BIP 119 or 119. And he like kind of started it like kind of funny. He's like, Martin Luther had 99, I'm going to give you 7. And basically what he wants is he was trying to do basically what BIP 119 is trying to do is trying to make Bitcoin I don't want to say more like an altcoin. That sounds really bad, but he's trying to give Bitcoin more functionality. And I know this kind of ties really well in with Pete Rizzo's article, Like, are you a monetary maximalist, more like Saifedean, where like Bitcoin is the way it is, you don't need any improvements, you don't need any changes? Or are you network maximalist, meaning that
platform
or
maximalist.
platform or network, yeah, but platform maximalist, meaning that like Bitcoin's the only platform that's going to win, but there's going to be changes, whether it's Taproot, whether it's SegWit, whether it's all these different things. So what he's trying to do with BIP 119 is there's different, and it's what is it? CTV stands for check
template verify.
Yeah, check template verify. And I believe it's different smart contract uses and protocols. So what he's trying to propose is a speedy trial, which is very similar to Taproot, where we kind of push the nodes, push forward Taproot. And the miners were kind of at first leery about it, saying they weren't ready for the upgrade or the soft fork. And he's trying to push in BIP 119 or CTV through a speedy trial with a vote. I don't know. Do you guys want to add on that, Q or Alex?
It's very technical and hard for me to access or make like educated judgments about this improvement. I'm more curious to see, I don't know, just like an update or like a speedy trial take place, and like what does the network want? You know what I mean? Like, do we want Bitcoin to change? Because people always say that like all of the best engineers and devs are working on Bitcoin, and all the best innovations that happen in the crypto ecosystem are going to come home to roost on Bitcoin. But it's like, we really don't see that. Like, that's not exactly the case. The best thing that's happened was we got Lightning. And it spread like wildfire. And I would say the next best thing that would actually, make that assertion true, that things come home to roost on Bitcoin, would be the Taro Lightning Labs putting stable coins on top of Bitcoin. Jeremy's update, from what I understand, is about covenants. And I don't know well enough like to give an opinion about it. I think we should have him on the show and talk about it.
I could say a covenant because I watched all of the open source stage and he talked about it, and I actually did clips for it, which were really good, that you can find on our YouTube channel for anyone that wants to check them out. They're also on Rumble as well. But basically what a covenant is, the way that he describes it is, if you have a guitar, so if I'm giving Alex a guitar, he can only put that guitar in a guitar case. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but he's talking about taking your Bitcoin and only being able to release it because of X, Y, and Z things. Meaning that, like, if we have a bet, like, oh, the Super Bowl, he's betting on the Rams this past year, and I was betting on, I'm drawing a blank on the team that they played. Who did the Rams play this year? Q, help me out here.
Bengals.
The Bengals, yeah. So if I pick the Bengals, he picked the Rams. And it's basically locking up this Bitcoin until an oracle has to come in and say, oh, this was the score of the game. Rams won, Bengals lost. Send the money to Alex. And so basically what he's saying is, like, you're trying to lock up Bitcoin for time locks, for, hold this Bitcoin for 20 years, release it only after this date arrives. So you need to take something in the physical world, because Bitcoin doesn't care about time. When like blocks come in, it's just the next block. But we arbitrarily put a time that block comes in. So that in a way, you need to have an external thing come in to check time. And, then it gets to be like, are you only using Apple's time? Are you using Microsoft chimes? Are you using an aggregation of like 5 times? And once 4 of the 5 hit, then do whatever the Bitcoin wants to do. But basically, he's trying to give Bitcoin more use case in terms of locking it up or putting it places, or like different functionality, I'd say, of Bitcoin. Q, if there's anything you want to add, or Alex, I know you're playing your guitar now.
He's muted. Let him be muted.
No, I think that was a lucid explanation of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will only say this from the perspective of someone who definitely looks at this, like, using the Pete Rizzo analogy. Like, I'm definitely more of an asset maximalist, but that's more through the lens of, I see that as the cleanest path to
Sorry
adoption.
To interrupt you. So monetary or platform?
Monetary, sorry.
Monetary, okay.
Monetary maximalist, because I see that as the cleanest pathway to actual like mass adoption of Bitcoin. And then, like, the truth is, I'm spacing on the exact number of, or the percentage of people who interact with the internet or use the internet on a day-to-day basis. But the truth is, like, I would be hard pressed to find more than 10% of internet users who really understand the nuances of like the code and the algorithms and like how it actually all works so that you are able to interact with YouTube, Netflix, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever thing that you're using, ESPN. Like, you don't necessarily know how that works because you don't need to know. You just know that it works. And there's a small subset of people who go off, create it, and make it work for you.
Actually, can I make a note about that? There's like no one knows in whole how Bitcoin works. This is more information than we can process as humans, like in our brains with our tiny, you know, electricity production in our bodies. Like, we just can't hold or process very much information compared to computers. So like something as simple as a pencil, there's like no one on earth that knows how to make the standard whatever pencil you get from scratch. This is the benefit of cooperation and free trade among different entities to like engineer better and better solutions for things. It lengthens the production process to such a point that like you just can't hold that information in your brains. Like, fortunately, we've built systems around this to kind of like question the pilots, because without that, I mean, the planes would just fall out of the sky. So it's like, but everything, I mean, for all you know, everything's just like held together by a thread. Like, it's a miracle that there is like a global trade at all, but I don't think anyone understands it fully.
I mean, dude, again, next normie dinner party you guys go to, just throw out the question of like, can someone explain to me how like the electricity that turns on the light bulb that we're shining right now actually works? And watch everyone get stumped and then hate you for instigating that conversation.
Yeah. That's I don't know, the joy of specialization, meeting new people. You get like a special unique like languages and like universes of discourse. Like, I think that's actually what binds together the Bitcoin community more than or equal to like the benefits of the network, is like we all kind of learned this special language, right? That's what we're doing here, is we're sharing this language with potential newcomers, special terms, small learning curve, like easy low bar of entry. All you have to do is dedicate time and energy into like reading or listening or watching or trying. And this like whole world opens up to you. And I actually think that is much of the marketing success of like other cryptocurrencies and huge like NFT projects, is they're introducing you to a language, they're teaching you that language, and they're letting you put it into practice on their platform.
Yeah. You want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, let us know who we're gonna dunk on.
The IMF.
Let's do it.
All right, so this was from Sam Callahan. It's just the first tweet in the thread. He is an analyst that works at Swan Bitcoin, and basically spent the last 2 years reading every piece the IMF has ever put out. So I feel sad that Swan made him go through all that torture, but basically we can just hit the high level ones of the ones that he picked out. So first article was, let's start with the IMF's note titled Blockchain Consensus Mechanisms, a Primer for Supervisors. It might have been titled, and this is in his words, Slander Proof of Work and Promote Proof of Stake. Here's an excerpt that sums it up in a nutshell. Proof of work is too energy intensive to be considered a viable consensus mechanism involving many regulated financial service activities. It runs counter to several IMF aims, particularly those that involve transitioning to a greener economy. Significant energy consumption, the nature of forking, and the attendant issues around the probabilistic settlement are likely to create friction with many regulatory frameworks, IMF staff. That was, so, I mean, that's just the first publication. We don't have to go into all 10 of these, but Alex or Q, I'll send it over to Alex first. Basically, they're ridiculing proof of work. They're saying it's not green and not good for the environment. And they're saying they basically can't control it. That's kind of what I get from that. Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, am I muted right now? Oh, okay. Yeah, reason you see like big institutions and maybe even like powerful people slandering like proof of work is because they benefit very much from the current proof of stake system, and proof of work actually checks their powers to some degree. If we were to, as a society, take on Bitcoin and embrace it very rapidly, people who are very close to the money printer here and who have enjoyed the kind of like meaningless and very loose definitions of what money is, and just the very cheap access to debt and printing, and all the cantillionaires, they would get wrecked in some sense because they don't,
They don't have a
everything is
purpose.
they don't have a purpose, and everything in our economy is arranged around these proof of stake systems, which is, like your control over the network is directly proportionate to your stake in that network. In Bitcoin, that isn't the case, right? You have to generate, like we're putting the law of conservation onto the monetary network and bringing it into the digital realm, and it's fascinating to watch it play out. But yeah, I mean, the great thing about proof of work is like you you can insult it, but like it's not going to affect Bitcoin like at the base layer at all.
Yeah, Q, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, more broadly, like a lot of the points that Sam brings up that the IMF's talking about, it's just like the general FUD chatter that we've heard now for over a year at this point. And it definitely comes from this perspective, both of ignorance as well as fear. One of the comments they kind of bring up that Sam highlighted is the idea that like they're even more against like decentralized networks because there's no way for them to regulate or control them, like, i.e., they're afraid of losing their control and power over the monetary system. Then you have other points that are just like not factual or misinterpreting data to like present it so that like your point becomes validated as a result, when it is only looking at like a fraction of the total data that's available for them to analyze. Like we can sit here and rebuff FUD all day long, but I don't really want to like spend our time doing that. I'd rather just sort of maybe get a sense of like, at what point do you guys think like the IMF is necessary in what we're trying to accomplish, which is like a tear down and restructuring of the global financial markets, keeping in mind that these guys technically are the ones who are currently in control of said global financial markets?
I don't think they're needed at all. I mean, they threatened El Salvador. El Salvador basically said, we're going to do what we want. Then Honduras and Argentina were thinking about doing what El Salvador did. And the IMF's like, if you do that, we're not going to give you any help. And they kind of backed away and, went a different direction, which sucks. I was going to touch on 2 more articles, unless you guys want to add anything more to that real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so the next one in the thread is the piece is titled Cleaning Up Crypto. It's another attack on proof of work. Once again, they cite DeVries debunks studies on Bitcoin and compare a single Bitcoin transaction carbon emissions to 1.8 million Visa purchases. They push proof of stake as a solution to Bitcoin. Then they have this beautiful chart. I'm saying that sarcastically. It's titled Energy Guzzler. Such scary language. It incorrectly calculates Bitcoin's carbon footprint per transaction and states that Bitcoin adds to the demand for coal-fired power plants. The IMF exaggerates and catastrophizes Bitcoin's energy use. And I think we can all agree that this is completely wrong. The long-term economics don't work for using coal-fired power plants. I mean, if you want to use them, fine, but the Bitcoin network is going to take care of you, that it's too pricey to do that long, sustained way. And yeah, that's pretty much my 2 cents on that. Anything you guys want to add, Alex and Q?
I'm good.
To Alex, to Q?
I'll chime in with just this idea that wait, say your point again.
That Bitcoin uses way too much CO2. It uses more than Visa, that it's promoting the use of coal-fired power plants, which isn't true. They want cheaper energy than coal-fired power plants.
So the point that I want to make, I've made this numerous times. This is not new information coming out of Q's mouth, but like I very much would like to see like cleaner, more efficient energy being used. I would love to figure out a way for us to like get off of the necessity of oil and gas just simply because we're beholden to so many other countries as a result of that. I truly believe that the next iterations of clean energy capture, utilization, and efficiency will stem from Bitcoin mining. We've already seen it with companies like Upstream Data. They literally took energy that was just being wasted. They took gases that were being sent to the atmosphere to make the ozone hole bigger, or whatever you want to believe. All of that stuff, they literally negated it and then took energy that was just wasted and use it now to fuel Bitcoin miners. Like that development, like when I explain that to some of my hardcore liberal friends, like the idea that there are these processes that already exist in 2022 right now that are inefficient and that there are ways for us to like essentially capitalize on energy being wasted. For example, the flaring of this of natural gases versus using it to power Bitcoin miners, like blows their mind because people don't really understand how inefficient our currently energy grid is. I've said it before and I'll say it again. How much energy does it take to actually operate and maintain every single ATM that is up in the world, or every single credit card reader that is operating, that's up on power 24/7? Like
Yeah.
it's no different. They're
Well,
not going
how
to
much
set.
energy? Yeah, how much energy does it take for universities to hire professors to indoctrinate people to believe that the state should be the ones to issue money?
You're
Yeah.
not wrong, but you're making it harder for people to follow. I think it's easier if we stick to like, dude, you
Yeah,
went
like
to
a
an ATM
bank
today.
branch, an
Like,
ATM, all the credit card processing terminals, keeping the lights on. Like,
exactly.
I don't even address that argument because it's a ridiculous argument. You're saying that energy consumption is inherently bad. Our whole society, like our whole world, everything you do in a day wouldn't be possible without massive amounts of energy consumption and increasingly greater lengths added to production processes. Like, do you want to run your life on a fucking water wheel? Like, do you want to go back to trying to coerce other humans to do work for you? No, this is like the great thing about technology. We've engineered ourselves past that. Although we've seen a stasis, and I think it's because the fiat system in general, like this giant central planning monster, is experiencing entropy at a rate that it can't sustain itself anymore. And you can't do good science when you're just like, I'm going off on a rant, when you're just like making up things to support your current system. So what we need is actually a switch to proof of work and to return value not only to the monetary system but to the digital realm. In order for us to progress as a society, we need to, in fact, use more energy. Bitcoin doesn't currently use enough energy. The CO2 thing is drives me nuts because, like, as you said, Q, Bitcoin incentivizes renewable energy. That's the line everybody uses, but you can actually like see that in practice. I mean, it remains to be seen how much of the network is going to be run off coal in the next 10 years, but I think we're going to find better solutions. Like, this is a very entrepreneurial, creative group of people that are working on how to get the cheapest um, hash rate per kilowatt hour. Sorry, I just got a weird notification. Yeah, anyway.
All right, I'll do the last one and then we'll go to Compass Mining. We'll wrap it up. So in this third article, so he has 10, but we're not going to go through all of them. So this third article, here the IMF explores how to regulate virtual assets, called VAs, as they say in their piece. VAs pose a significant threat to the integrity of the global financial system, money laundering, terrorist financing, and the finance of proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Man, were they part of the Bush administration saying this? You read that right. The IMF hints that virtual assets are being used to finance the proliferation of nuclear weapons. So that's Sam Callahan's word. That's pretty funny. Is there any evidence of the direct connection between virtual assets and weapons of mass destruction? I didn't find any, but I'm sure it does. But it sure does sound scary. So Sam then says some takeaways. The IMF is most concerned about stable coins, recommend obtaining info about transactions like IP addresses, wallet info, and even info of transaction recipients or originators. Wants to bypass the courts with asset freezing and seizure to allow faster regulatory response times. One thing's clear, the IMF hates decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that make it more difficult for them to regulate, and any anonymity enhanced features like mixers, ring signatures, VPNs that obfuscate the identification information. The IMF does not like privacy. And then there's this cool graphic showing basically one person with their wallet sending to another person's wallet. And then in the middle, it's circled with like all these things crossed out, like VPN, mixer or mixing service, ring signatures, or encryption services, which I'm going to add my little 2 cents and then I'll kick it over to Q and Alex. I know that in the 90s, there was talks about encryption technically being a wartime thing because that's used to encrypt messages to send message from person to person. And it's something that the Russians and or our other enemies were using. So they were trying to make the argument in the Supreme Court that encryption is technically like a weapon and that it should be regulated and it can't. The Supreme Court, I need to pull up the case, but I'm almost positive that they ruled that encryption is just code and code is just a speech and speech is protected under the First Amendment. So like them trying to go after VPNs and encryption is actually an attack on people's free speech. And I know the IMF's more of a global perspective, but I don't think any of their arguments would hold up in the United States. While some politicians would like it to hold up, I can't see it overruling anything that the Supreme Court's already ruled on in the 90s. And this is actually the fight of the early cypherpunks before Bitcoin was even invented, but they talked about this. If you got, I'll kick it over to you guys.
This has been going on for years. There used to be t-shirts and pamphlets handing out basically like encryption protocols as free speech. Like Bitcoin's not encrypted, and I think people have a right to develop tools to protect themselves from the state, including ways to make it harder to track who is holding what Bitcoin. Now we've seen a number of failures in the last years in terms of like specialized hops and like coin joins and stuff like that. Ultimately, it's a blockchain, so understand that your transactions are transparent. While your name doesn't necessarily have to be tied to them. If you really want to enjoy that privacy, mine your own Bitcoin or go to a meetup and buy some peer-to-peer KYC free Bitcoin. But yeah, I mean, the IMF should just, it can just get lost because we need these tools to protect ourselves and they can't stop you from developing. But also like Bitcoin, there's like a misnomer. It's not encrypted. It's a hash. It's different. It's a one-way function.
Q, over to you.
I think you're absolutely right on the topic of the free speech and just code in general being free speech. I think there's like, again, my favorite thing to dunk on the idea that like Bitcoin is used for illegal activities. Like when they found Pablo Escobar, he didn't have mountains upon mountains of Bitcoin wallets. When they find a different one of El Chapo's like hideouts, they don't find like encrypted code or Bitcoin wallet addresses. They find mountains upon mountains of USD cash. Like cash is the most untraceable form of currency that's out there. If you just do a cash transaction, like no one knows. That's why there are merchants who prefer cash so that they can like fudge some numbers around here or there. You have to, I think, separate again this idea of their fear of losing control and then like spinning up a story to where it's like, well, what they're doing is illegal and like it helps push forward other illegal things. And like, if you do it, therefore you're participating in illegal activities and therefore like you're a criminal. Like that narrative is not going to stop. We watched it play out in Canada. We literally watched people who use Bitcoin as a form of legal, fair, valid payments get doxxed and get shut down by the Canadian government. That's just going to be the first instance of this. This is the first fully developed nation, Western nation, that's dealing with something like this, where a government is shutting down people's ability to spend their hard-earned money and the time they spent to make and earn that money, they're being told how they can and can't spend it. I think that's the larger takeaway from that comment, is it's giving a green light to countries under the IMF who have leaders who don't agree with Bitcoin or are not supportive of Bitcoin, to then turn around and create legislation to attack or be anti-Bitcoin.
Yeah. And it's even crazy. Like, we didn't elect the IMF. We didn't vote them in power. And yet they're trying to make worlds, not just for the United States, but globally. You know, they're really trying to control the world. It's like some crazy Bond villain, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, look,
I gotta say, Q, we're getting a lot of comments in the chat. We didn't, the title of this stream was supposed to be "Are Bitcoiners Illiterate?" Sorry for the news update. But to be fair, we did go through like 6 news stories, so it was not clickbait.
Yeah. And then we're going on to the last one now. So the last one is
I wanted to make one additional comment to what you were saying, Chris. There's like this, you know what, forget it. I don't remember it now. I smoked way too much weed yesterday.
All right. He celebrated 420 too hard. The Compass mining thing real quick, and then we'll wrap it up.
Oh yeah, Compass sucks. Get your
well,
mine your own Bitcoin.
All
Dude,
right,
mining as a service hasn't proven to be a sustainable business model, or a profitable one, or one that is like not a scam. Like, Compass has fucked over its users in like different countries, different like geographical locations. Like, I wouldn't put money in for them to mine for you as a service and expect to get anything in return. Like, there's just too many risks involved. They can't control the governments in the regions they're operating in, and there's like so many things that they're just like, well, that's out of my hands. And it's like, okay, so don't put your money in their hands, you know, put it in your own investment. Like, learn how to Bitcoin mine, do it with some friends. You know what I mean? It's just a way better investment, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I'll read this real quick. So Whit Gibbs, he's the CEO of Compass Mining. Simply Bitcoin, on 2 or 3 episodes ago, they actually said that Compass was saying that they were in support of Ukraine, of everything that was going on, which is fine. But people were asking, if Russia gets sanctioned, before sanctions happened, what would you do? Because you have miners in Russia. And Whit Gibbs never responded back then, but he just responded today. So he sent a message in Discord. Everyone, regarding Russian sanctions. Due to recent sanctions by the US, Compass Mining is required to immediately cease all dealings with BitRiver, our Russian hosting partner. Notices will be sent to BitRiver today to terminate all hosting contracts effective immediately. Machines will be turned off today and they will not be turned back on. At this time, it is not possible to export any of the machines from Russia. Rather than take a loss, Compass is making all commercial efforts to liquidate the hardware for our customers and return them whatever funds we can obtain for the sale of these machines. We cannot guarantee that these machines will sell, but we are doing our best to make this happen. Customers will receive a formal notice of contract cancellation and be prompted to authorize Compass to sell hardware on their behalf. Upon receipt of this notice, customers will have 48 hours to notify Compass, provide authorization in that window. The responsibility will provide to be sold. If the customers fail to provide authorization in that window, the responsibility will fall on the customer to follow up directly with BitRiver, the facility, to find a solution for their machines. I strongly advise against that course of action, as it's highly unlikely a resolution outside of our option will be had. While we have advised that hosting outside North America comes with additional risks, this is a terrible turn of events, to put it mildly. Unfortunately, Compass cannot legally do any more than what is stated above. Please note that all future shipments of Russian machines will be routed to North American facility, and new hosting contracts will be sent out to customers in the days to sign.
So, yeah, like, how you think they're really going to turn off those machines? What they're going to do is cancel your contract and just mine for themselves until the Russian government forces them to stop, or the sanctions force them to stop, or they're going to take their machines, buy them back privately, redistribute them, and mine and keep that profit, that machine that you paid for themselves. Compass has not issued refunds to people in the past for machines that they could not turn on, or they've issued refunds in a currency other than what was paid to obtain the machines, which is illegal. I can't emphasize it enough. Like, do not do mining as a service. It's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, you're even obfuscating the risk even more by just having the machines in someone else's hands. So it's not your keys, not your coins, not your machines, not your hash. Like, you're just like getting further and further away. It's a third-party risk. I'm not saying mining at home is easy or cheap. I'm not saying that at all. But
It's not supposed to be cheap.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be hard.
Yeah, Q, anything you want to add to that?
I mean, at the end, like this is the perfect example of moments where you have a decentralized network, have certain points of centralized control, if you will, whether it's an exchange, whether it's a hosted or shared mining platform. And this centralized control now takes away from the ethos of it's decentralized, everyone has access, everyone can do as they see fit. And then these centralized points of control are where they're going to attack us. The government is not going to attack the Bitcoin network. They're going to attack the companies that operate on top of the Bitcoin network. Let's be fucking real.
On ramps, off ramps, and minting points.
Exactly, because those are the points of, in essence, they're the points of centralization, and therefore the easiest place to actually form an attack. An attack doesn't need to be like this malicious, we're gonna take over your company. It can be as simple as like make their experience harder and harder, make there be more hoops for their users to jump through so that this becomes negated. Someone like Wit, let's be real, and I'm making some claims not as someone who has ever met or spoken or really interacted with the person in general. So like literally a spoonful of salt with what I say, please. But if I'm looking at this from the lens of someone who has started and built up a business, there's an exit plan in his mind. And the exit plan is no doubt something to do in the public markets. If he wants to go to the public markets with Compass Mining, what he's eventually going to have to do is adhere to whatever US regulators want to have done. And so as a result, if the US regulators say, hey, you can't be embedded in Russia, but I have an IPO that I'm going to file in 6 months. Okay, well, I don't need that mark on my application. So I'm going to turn around and I'm going to do whatever the US government says, not whatever is in the best interest of my customers. That's, in my opinion, what we're watching play out.
Yeah, Wit's taking a loan from you and hoping to turn a profit on the Bitcoin mining and pay you out from it. Like, there's too much trust involved. I think there will be eventually probably some sort of mining as a service or better solutions for at-home mining or making mining generally more accessible. And I think we'll see a lot of these like big mining pools. I'm not a mining expert, but I would imagine, yeah, they're kind of in some ways like points of failure or points of attack or points of interest for governments. Like what you might see is mining redistributed in smaller pools across the whole world privately. That seems like the ideal way to go. Especially, I mean, how many solo miners have we seen supposedly get winning whole blocks recently?
I will caveat that I did the research into the solo blocks. So technically it's a pool. I think it has like 4 or 5% of the world's hash power. But each miner is set up that when your machine wins, it counts as a solo block. I don't know how they differentiate this, but like they basically pooled, so they agree with all the same rules. But when your machine wins, you win it as a solo. Does that make sense? So that's why we saw like a bunch, or maybe it wasn't 5%. Maybe I'm overblowing the percentage, but it's like a decent amount. It's like 0.5% or 1% that these machines, when they win, it counts as a solo block, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think they're just winning in the block. I think they're just in a pool by virtue of not being in any of the other pools.
Yep.
What'd you say? What did you just send us, Q?
We'll talk about this off air, but I'm very angry right now.
Yeah, I see you. That's so funny. All right. Well, I don't know. I would say just be careful with mining investments. The better opportunity is always, or the safer, the thing you can control. Like this is one of those things where like if you put all your money in Compass, this is a I can't control kind of situation. Like what the fuck are you gonna do? Whereas if you had just bought Bitcoin, you're sitting pretty like us. So I don't know.
I mean, so I hope everyone enjoyed the news. I guess I'll let Alex and Q, and then Q will send us off. Alex, last words.
Yeah, buy Bitcoin and hold it. If you're new to Bitcoin, we'll drop some Bitcoin in the chat. I mean, only one person wins that. So keep tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Go get 10% off anything in the Bitcoin magazine store on us. Use the promo code FOMO, FOMO. And I think we'll be back tomorrow and keep this train rolling. We'll be back with more guests next week.
This is
You want to
news to
send
me
us
that we're
off?
streaming tomorrow because tomorrow is Friday.
Yeah, we're still streaming tomorrow. We have no other obligations. What
We
are we gonna
literally
do?
never streamed on a Friday. This is news to me, people.
Actually, we used to before you started, my friend. Me and Chris used to stream.
Yeah. I'm gonna drop some sats to Q. Buy me a little bit more time with your funny faces.
Yeah, we'll pay you. We'll pay you Friday.
This is my reaction to being told I now have to work on a Friday.
Especially you don't have to come to the meeting. You just have to show up to the stream. How about that?
You don't have to work, but we'll save some money by not paying you on Friday.
Whoa. Attacking someone's time earned money. Come on, Chris. That's anti-Bitcoin right there. I do want to give a quick plug and shout out though to the Sound Money Fest windbreaker that Chris is also rocking. And as well, the B22 dad hat that honestly the white is the move. Oh, the Sound Money Fest bucket hat too.
Yeah, this is a good hat.
All of this is available at the Bitcoin Magazine store for a limited time. We want to give you guys who didn't have a chance to join us in Miami an opportunity to rep the stuff that we have. Feel free to check it out. Use code FOMO, get 10% off so that they know that, we're actually doing something productive for Bitcoin Magazine and not just like talking to each other about our ideas and the way we see the world. That a wrap?
That is, let me hold on. Sending out.
We're still live.
We're still live.
Buy Bitcoin, stack sats. If you don't use Strike, shoot me a DM and I'll send you a code so you can get $10 of free Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, I got to get in the ref link there at the last second.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Talk to you later.